Hello and welcome back to another Magic the Gathering EDH deck tech idea. Today we are taking a look at Teval, Arbiter of Virtue. It is a 5 mana 6/6 with flying and lifelink, and another very powerful ability because spells you cast have delve. So each card you exile from your graveyard while casting those spells pays for 1 mana. But he comes with a downside because whenever you cast a spell, you lose life equal to its mana value. Teval is an extremely powerful Sultai commander that you wanna bring out really early while along the way you fill up your graveyard. To either have very powerful proactive turns to win the game, or either to use a lot of very reactive and interactive spells to control the game. While we want to ramp in the early game, we also want to commit cards to the battlefield that give us advantages when cards leave our graveyard, as they do when we use them for delve costs. Which is why we play cards like Tormod, the Desecrator, a 4 mana 4/2, and whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token. This can accumulate to a powerful zombie army if you approach the game in an interactive and reactive way, because you will cast a lot of instant speed spells that you want to discount with delve costs, and with that get a bunch of Tormod triggers. We also play the other version of Teval, the Balanced Scale, a 4 mana 4/4 with flying, and whenever it attacks, mill 3 cards. Then you may return a land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. And its other very helpful triggered ability is whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 2/2 black zombie druid creature token. Just as with Tormod, as we have these creatures on the battlefield, we want to approach the game in a reactive way and control the board and the stack with powerful interactive spells while we accumulate a huge army of zombie tokens. We play Teval's Judgment, a 3 mana enchantment, and whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. You either draw a card, create a treasure token, or create a 2/2 black zombie druid creature token. This very flexible enchantment can give us exactly what we need in the current situation, and can also help us to increase our zombie army. We play Kero Goldkeeper, a 4 mana 3/3 with flying, and whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard during your turn, create a treasure token. This is a bit more of a proactive way because it only triggers during your turn, but depending on how many cards we have in our graveyard to pay for delve costs, we can already go even when it comes to mana, simply because we create a treasure token. This card can also be renewed from your graveyard by exiling it from your graveyard and paying 5 mana, so you put 2 +1/+1 counters and a flying counter on target creature. Another great card advantage piece is Kishla Skimmer, a 2 mana 2/2 with flying, and whenever a card leaves your graveyard during your turn, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. And now let's talk about how we always have enough cards in our graveyard to pay for delve. We play Out of the Tombs, a 3 mana enchantment, and at the beginning of your upkeep put 2 Eon counters on Out of the Tombs, then mill cards equal to the number of Eon counters on it. It also has a replacement effect because if you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, instead return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and if you can't, you lose the game. This replacement effect is extremely powerful because we have game-finishing creatures in our deck. We also play Overlord of the Baymurk, a 5 mana 5/5, which you can also impend for 2 mana. When it enters or attacks, you mill 4 cards, and then you may return a non-avatar creature card or a planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. To be able to also cast spells from our graveyard, we play 6, a 3 mana 2/4 with reach, and whenever it attacks, mill 3 cards. You may put a land card from among them into your hand. This will always allow you to fill up your graveyard during your combat step and also to make sure that you hit your land drop. Furthermore, as long as it's your turn, non-land permanent cards in your graveyard have retrace. A very old but gold card when it comes to graveyard synergies and filling it up is Doom Whisperer, a 5 mana 6/6 with flying and trample, and you can pay 2 life to surveil 2. There's also a very powerful sorcery card, Breach the Multiverse, a 7 mana sorcery, and each player mills 10 cards. For each player, choose a creature or planeswalker card in that player's graveyard. Put those cards onto the battlefield under your control, and then each creature you control becomes a Phyrexian in addition to its other types. Another very useful attack trigger comes from World Shaper, a 4 mana 3/3, and whenever it attacks, you may mill 3 cards. When it dies, you return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Now that we have talked about how we fill up our graveyard and how we draw more value from casting spells with delve costs, we wanna see which cards can win us the game. We play Sire of 7 Deaths, a 7 mana 7/7 with first strike, vigilance, menace, trample, reach, lifelink and ward, pay 7 life. Of course, if we cast this card with Teval on the battlefield, we will lose 7 life, but after one combat step it will have paid for itself simply because it has lifelink, and with all of those keywords it is a big threat on the battlefield. We wanna pay for Omniscience, a 10 mana enchantment, and you may cast spells from your hand without paying their mana costs. Another game finishing creature is Hullbreaker Horror, a 7 mana 7/8 with flash. This spell can't be countered, and whenever you cast a spell, choose up to 1. Either return target spell you don't control to its owner's hand, or return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Probably one of the most powerful creatures in this deck simply because we can cast a bunch of spells in this deck because we can discount them due to Teval, and Hullbreaker Horror will with that help us to either control the stack or the battlefield. Due to the fact that we also lose a bunch of life by casting spells, we play Aetherflux Reservoir, a 4 mana artifact, and whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. This will help us to stabilize, but it can also be a Wincon because pay 50 life and Aetherflux Reservoir deals 50 damage to target creature or player. Another card that we want to commit to the battlefield is Ugin the Spirit Dragon, an 8 mana 7 loyalty planeswalker, and its +2 mechanic says Ugin the Spirit Dragon deals 3 damage to any target. Its -X ability says exile each permanent with converted mana costs X or less that's 1 or more colors. This can serve as a really powerful Bard wipe, and after you did that you can commit your remaining threats to the battlefield. Its -10 ability is also a game finisher because you gain 7 life, draw 7 cards, then put up to 7 permanent cards from your hand onto the battlefield. Another creature that can help us to stabilize our life total is Beladros Witherbloom, a 7 mana 4/4 with flying, and at the beginning of each upkeep create a 1/1 black and green pest creature token with, when this creature dies you gain 1 life. It also has a very powerful activated ability as soon as you have a bunch of lands on the battlefield because pay 10 life, untap all lands you control. Activate only once each turn. You want to win more? You get it. You play Platinum Angel, a 7 mana 4/4 with flying, and you can't lose the game and your opponents can't win the game. The relevant thing is that you cannot lose the game because Teval will drain your life total by a huge amount the more spells you cast, and with Platinum Angel on the battlefield you can negate that effect. A slightly better effect in my opinion comes from Platinum Empyrean, an 8 mana 8/8 and your life total can't change. Of course you cannot gain life, but you also cannot lose life, and even though Teval has lifelink, it is most likely going to happen that you will lose more life than gain life with Teval, which means that you can work your opponents down because you can cast spells without any downside, and with that pretty quickly win the game. Alright guys, these were a few cards that I will play in Teval, Arbiter of Virtue. Let me know which cards you would add to the deck, which legendary creature I shall feature next. Make sure to check out my full deck list in the notes below, and then I would say see you in the next one. Goodbye guys.